Very much for the invitation. Also, thanks to all the people in the audience that are listening. I'm doing a quick intro into the topic that is the focus of today, and it's about the leadership of a female and the industry overall. The burnout syndrome that we have suffered in the last 2 years almost in female leadership increased as an effect of the pandemic days that we have lived. However, women can take advantage of a hyper-connected world with personal benefits, professionals, and for industry for all itself. So let's talk about this detail-oriented leadership that enables approved operating practices and allows spaces for disruption and innovation. And for me, it's a pleasure to grab my coffee and chat on the realities that we're facing as a continent with the company of these guys, these great leaders that will deliver to us an holistic view of the Americas and how we are moving forward to build up together a path for men and women working at model factories. So, dear panelists, before going directly into my questions that I'm presenting to you and that I'm directing to you, please be so kind to introduce yourself before previously the previous your answer and how you have been impacted and how is your view on the matters that we'll be talking about. The first question will be direct to Vanessa Molina. And Vanessa, after your presentation, please share with us which are the key factors that enable this misrepresentation, and if or 2020 and 2021 has increased the gap. Vanessa, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Anna. Like Anna said, my name is Vanessa Molina, and I'm the director. I'm a director in the partner ecosystem. I'm responsible for our global partnerships with Industry 4.0 partners. And to the question about the factors, in my opinion, it really starts with visibility and role models. And the fact that, most women, when they join companies and they start to climb the corporate ladder, they're kind of at a crossroads that when they start to go up in their career, it's usually around the same time that you start planning families and you start having a family and getting married and so on and so forth, or getting a partner and rearing children. And a lot of times that's at odds with going up and getting more responsibility. In my experience, that's what happened to me, and that's what's happened to many of my friends and my peers in the industry. And I noticed that I didn't really have a lot of role models on other women when it was happening to me that I could go to for advice and get how do you handle the balance of life and work and responsibilities and having children. Particularly for me in this industry, I was always on a plane and traveling a lot, and it was, how do I handle childcare and doing it from afar, and what are the tools? So I had to find allies because I didn't really have a whole lot of role models. There weren't very many females in leadership at the time. But I found a great network of male counterparts that were willing to be my allies, who told me experiences about their wives and things that they had experienced, who pointed me in the direction of parallel industries where I could find other women who were going through something similar. But more importantly, they coached me to have a no barrier mindset, which I didn't realize I was having. I was looking at all the limitations that were in front of me instead of really thinking outside of that scope and saying, I have options and I will learn and I'm totally capable, because I knew I was capable. I was just resistant in and of itself of my own. And I don't know if that's a female thing or if it was just a Vanessa thing, but I wasn't seeing it that way. But I had a lot of really great allies along the way who acted like cheerleaders and mentors and coaches. And quite honestly, until I started to see more female role models, and eventually I became one of those female role models. And I realized that that was a big factor in my growth and in the trajectory. Coincidentally, at the same time that I started seeing more, at the time I was a project manager and seeing more females coming into the field, also coming into development roles where I was seeing them more and more. And I took the time to kind of pay it forward and pay it backwards in that sense, and pull others along with it. And your question about 2020 and 2021, I would say women bared the brunt of the pandemic squeeze. I was working what felt like 18, 19-hour days. I had a husband working at home. I was working at home. My child was doing classes at home. And I was trying to balance all of that, right? And so I had no balance whatsoever during the pandemic. And I actually considered leaving the workforce. In December of last year, I was on the fence about leaving the workforce and seriously didn't think I could continue at the pace and the rate that I was in when I actually was recruited by SAP. And I took the brave stance of, instead of leaving the workforce, which I was completely prepared to do, to change organizations in the middle of a pandemic. And really what swayed me was, one, access to female leadership and role models. Two, everyone that interviewed me, I asked about work-life balance, and they all told me about the incredible things that SAP does to ensure that we have work-life balance, especially during the pandemic, but that they had in place before the pandemic. And then the other thing is that, and we live in this fantastic digital connected world that made doing my job that much easier, because I could do it, like I'm on a panel right now in Mexico and I'm sitting in Miami, Florida. So these types of things actually encouraged me to lean in and be brave instead of stepping out, which was what I was prepared to do.
So thanks a lot for sharing this with us. Thanks a lot also for sharing these personal views and these personal experiences, and taking in consideration the hyperconnectivity that nowadays we have. I want to shift over to Nadia Torres. And well, Nadia, during these last 2 days, we have been listening, speaking, and learning about the trends of Industry 4.0. We heard intelligent and predictive technologies and solutions are helping to build a resilient and sustainable supply chain beyond the four walls of business. It will be great to hear from you how IoT solutions can empower people and female leadership.
Okay. Well, thank you, Anna. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Well, my name is Nadia Torres, and I'm part of the Global Center of Excellence for Digital Supply Chain Solutions in SAP. And we can say that my main task is to be the linkage between our customer challenges and our digital supply chain solutions, right? Basically, to get to know my customers and know their challenges and their opportunities within supply chain, and then let them know how they can overcome those opportunities or challenges with our technology, with our digital supply chain solutions. My prior experience within the supply chain was that I've been involved not in the technology side, but the operational side of it. So I've worked with different companies in different industries, and I've been with SAP for 10 years now. So for the first question on how this pandemic impacted me, well, I used to travel a lot. And by a lot, I mean, I was out of my house 4 out of 5 days a week. I used to travel a lot. I used to visit a lot of customers around Latin America. And suddenly this stopped, right? The travel ban was imposed, and every single meeting was needed to be done virtually. So here I am in the professional side. And in the personal side, besides work, now I needed to address the homeschooling for my 7-year-old and my 5-year-old. And also I had the challenge to set up a new home. It happened that we bought a house 2 weeks before the massive lockdown. So I had to do everything to set up a new house for 5 people. And I needed to start moving and getting, for example, the contracts approved so that the electricity could be supplied to my home, the furniture, mattresses, dishes, food, everything. So in that regards, basically e-commerce became my middle name. Then moving forward to the question on how all this technology, how Industry 4.0 could empower people and specifically female leadership. Even though I think that automation will keep increasing, right? People will be still needed at any workplace. For example, if we are talking about an industry plant, we will need people to get into the decision making, even though they are going to be completing tasks, and so the people will be more into decision making, into creativity, into these new and specific, let's say, human skills. So technology, IT solutions need to provide some support and tailor information so that these people can overcome their tasks and activities. So if we think of a use case or an example within Industry 4.0 where people is being empowered, I can tell you that, for example, let's take the workforce protection, right? How many days we can go without incidents. If we combine technology such as IoT-enabled monitoring, if we combine geofencing, real-time analytics, and if we integrate all this technology with solutions like, I don't know, like intelligent system like environment, health and safety systems, we can definitely help customers to prevent incidents and of course the workforce, right? By alerting them and guiding in real time to avoid unsafe areas and to guide them through this workplace. Also, if we use wearables devices, for example, we can help the workers to inform of any specifics on their work environment. Also, we can leverage virtual reality, augmented reality, so that this workforce could have insights on the environment that relates to their task, to the plant, or to whatever they are performing. In the supervisor side of all this example, they can definitely leverage this technology by having a visibility, by knowing where their workers are performing their tasks, knowing that they are healthy, that they are without any risk. And if suddenly something come up, they can react and they can decide with all this information that they have through the data, through the sensors, through the technology, and guide the workers to a safety environment or to guide them through the tasks that they need to perform. And how this relates to women or female leadership. Since women are participating more and more actively in industries that were past led usually by men, like mining, like oil and gas, where unsafe working conditions, remote working areas were the norm. With this technology, we can help our customers to help the women to participate and to have improvement in their worker environment, to work safely, to have more visibility, decision-making, and so. Therefore, if we have a better working environment, you will break down barriers and increase women participation. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Nadia. That was a really nice and neat answer. Breaking up the barrier, taking advantage of what we have at our factories, what we can also have at our factories, and that can also obviously give us a little bit of a buffer and to maneuver all these roles that we are playing in society. Darcy, I know that you are here and considering Vanessa's and Nadia's sharings, can you enlighten us on how and what SAP is doing to guide and nourish female leadership, how this is impacting our operations, our partners' operations, and our client operations as well?
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, thank you so much for having me. This is such an important topic. Just as far as background, I lead the North America Digital Supply Chain team. And in that role, I have the privilege of working with hundreds of customers in North America to transform their supply chains using our design to operate methodology in conjunction with Industry 4.0 technology and using our network of networks to do that. And COVID has had such an impact on supply chain. From a work perspective, you know, Vanessa and Nadia talked about going remote, not traveling, having to get used to that from a business perspective. But what it also did is it brought supply chain to the top, you know, not only of heads of company, but heads of countries, right, are all now talking about supply chain. So from a work perspective, you know, it's been pretty busy working with our companies to help them build resilient and agile supply chain, and that's been fantastic. And we've gotten very good with the technology, as Nadia says, as doing a lot, using a lot of Internet of Things and technology and digitalization to do that. But from a personal perspective, we all know that it's been rough. Now, I'm fortunate in that I'm an empty nester, so I do not have the young children at home that many women are struggling with, but I do have a daughter that has 3 children under the age of 5, that she too, we had to supplement how she was taking care of those in the working world. And she too has actually backed down a little bit in her career progression because she just can't do it. So that clearly is an issue of what we do with balance of family and work. Now, regarding the question of what is SAP doing, I could not be prouder than to work for a company like SAP, who first and foremost recognizes what an important topic this is. And it all starts with, first of all, I think SAP has done a very good job of educating our organization as to why diversity is important. Diversity is important because it helps create winning and successful teams. Diverse teams, we know statistically, they perform better. And also it was important to educate our organization to realize that that women don't always go for roles that they are quite qualified for. In fact, statistics show that a woman will not apply for a job that she doesn't feel she has 80+% qualification. That's not true of our male counterparts. They'll go for a job even though they may have none of the qualifications, but they will go for the job. So we have to help our female leaders and employees know they can go for these jobs. And then it's all about recruiting, right? You've got to go out and look for diverse candidates and look for women, right? And they may be in different areas, and look for different types. You know, we had training with our recruiters to look for different types of backgrounds that would be relevant in the position that you're looking for and that they could grow into. And the other thing is, we hire 60% of women to men, knowing, unfortunately, we're going to have some fallout, which is the next part I want to talk about. How do we develop and nurture women? And in that way, what we do is we have executive shadowing, which is so important to make sure as we get these talented women into the workplace, to make sure they have the proper mentoring, the proper sponsorship through the organization. And the other thing that became very, very important is we changed to a flexible work organization. So now women and everybody in the organization, not just women, can work at what makes sense for them, right? To work around child drop-off, school tendering, whatever it is, taking care of elderly parents. That all became very, very important, right? And then what we realized is we now have a win-back program, so that for women that did opt out for whatever reason, to go back to them and try to fix what was the issue that caused you to leave our organization, and see if we can't work around that. But the fact is, we are all in this together, right? It's one of the reasons that I formed the Women in Supply Chain, which is all about how do we attract, mentor, sponsor women in supply chain. And it's not just within SAP, it's with our partners, it's with our customer, and it's just been phenomenal that we're all getting together with no other mission other than to improve the diversity. And to my earlier point, there could not have been a better time, because now, you know, with what's going on with Industry 4.0, which talking overhead, this is now a very exciting field, and it's a great time to attract the best and the brightest into an exciting field where, quite frankly, CEOs are being groomed from supply chain, and people can see that. And so we all have to be working together. And in fact, I will tell a short story. I was at an event at our North America headquarters this week, which is out of Philadelphia, and it was a large aerospace manufacturer out of the United States. There were 65 SAP and customers at that meeting, there were 2 women. There was myself from SAP, there was another woman from the company, and then we called it out. We said, look around this room, people. Shame on SAP, shame on the aerospace company. You have to fix this. I went to the head of I said, we have a problem here. You can see this. You got to, it takes work, but you've got to fix this problem. You cannot have a meeting with 65 people and only have 2 women there. And so it's all about us taking ownership and responsibility and working a little harder. But we are making some headway, but first of all, it's visibility of the problem, recognizing it. And I think SAP in particular is really trying to close this gap and work with our partners and customers.
That's such a lovely and an amazing answer, because I always believe that building a nourished network of women that are pushing together this teamwork in order to put more excellent heads on the discussion panels, it's awesome. Okay, and as a matter of fact, in my personal experience, I have been with male allies that guide me through the supply chain work that typically was conceived 10 years ago as a male area of knowledge, and now here I am with you guys talking about how we can pay it forward to the future generations. Sorry about that. Juan, as our ally here. So let me grasp some of the concept that Darcy shared with us in regards building the network, building the nourishment strategies for women, how we can help to close the gap. Can we benefit from the model factories of the future of hyper-connected operations? Will this allow women leadership to change the trend in Latin America? How is your perspective on that matter?
Okay, thank you, Ana, for the invitation. And I'm Juan Cartier, and I'm leading the digital supply chain for Latin America. And I'm helping companies to digitalize the supply chain processes. And regarding to your question, yes, of course it does. We can benefit the model of the factory of the future in hyper-connect operations. And I would like to mention that, considering that in the past, the profile that the companies were looking for their factories at the operational level were more oriented to people that felt comfortable with tasks that involve heavy moving equipment or materials, exposure to high temperature or to high level of noises. And in most of these cases, men were that type of profile. Nowadays, I think that with the hyper-connected environment and the digitalization of factories, that profile changed completely. And the competencies that companies are looking are more oriented to qualifications rather than physical competencies. And in that means, we believe that the market is now giving more equal opportunities to everyone, regardless their gender. And I would like to also share an example of this. Last month, I had the opportunity to visit a customer that produces screws and nails and all that type of material for the construction industry. And after the long period of lockdowns that we have been through, it seems that everyone is renewing their homes, right? Nadia just shared with us that she has been renewing her house as well. So this company was under a lot of pressure to increase their production, and during the last year, they decided to automatize some of their production processes, some of the production lines. And when I visited the digital boardroom area that they had built, the people sitting there and responsible for the operation of those automatized production lines were all women. And that was a completely different picture of what previous automation and hyper-connection operations we were used to seeing in factories. So that's a great KPI to see the difference between a manual or manual-based processes that we used to have in the past and the factory of the future with the automation and the connected operations.
Sorry, I was on mute and I was struggling with the control. This has been my life in the last year and a half. So that's a very good feedback that you're giving us, Juan, that we are seeing more women sitting down in the factory, sitting down in the operations around Latin America. And I will love to have some kind of conclusions between us, okay? Since we are grabbing a coffee or a Coke or water, as you may want to grab your favorite drink. And Vanessa, listening to Nadia, to Darcy, to Juan, what are your key takeaways to close the gap?
That's a good question. I think Darcy hit the nail on the head, and so did Juan when they both said, visibility, or that he, Juan physically seeing women in roles that weren't there before. Darcy calling it out when she was in a room that there weren't enough women. I think that visibility is a huge, huge component to all of this. I also agree 100% with recruiting practices and them changing, because I myself am one of those persons who, if I don't have 80% of the qualifications, would question why you would hire me, instead of looking at it from the perspective of, if I had all the qualifications, why would I want this job? I would be bored. So I think that definitely makes a difference. And mentoring, I would say we're all allies and we're all mentors because we're all in this together. And the way we've seen progress in Industry 4.0, because it's hyper connected, because it's about breaking down barriers, it's about breaking barriers within companies and silos and letting data threads flow and redesigning processes for automation. That's in essence what we're doing in building diverse workplaces. So I think not only does closing the gap take all of us being in it together, I think Industry 4.0 shows us how we're in it together.
Awesome answer. Definitely, we are in this together. Nadia, any key takeaway that you want to highlight from your perspective?
From my point of view, since I'm pretty much close to customers, right? I've seen from let's say the last 2 years, that many of our LAC customers, the Latin American customers that I've been with, I am very pleased to say that every time I see more and more women taking part of this on the events and these key roles that we usually have, right? For example, we have these webinars, these success stories in SAP, where we invite customers to address their journey using our solutions. And for me, it has been very, very great to see that in the latest events, more women are taking a key role participant in this event, as key participants, in these events. Being the VP of operation, being the VP of innovation, driving their maintenance strategies for the whole company, for every single plant that they have. So for me, this has been a very great way to see how we are shifting this point of view, right? We are shifting and leading more women participating in areas and in industries that in the past were most basically driven by men, right? And to the customers, what would I say, what would I suggest is like, we need to keep it up with the good work that we are doing today. We need to speed up women participation. We need to enable processes so that we can have more women in them. We know definitely that technological, social, and political forces are driving and shaping our new working environments. So we have this uncertain future, right, at the very front of our eyes. So we need to have new skills. We need to comply with different talents, and women can and should be part of the solution. So we definitely need to understand that when companies commit themselves to diverse leadership, they become more successful. That would be it.
That is super true. Okay, and in order to keep on with this conversation of key takeaways, Darcy, I think in your previous participation, you enlightened us on what you and the North American teams are doing to increase and to close the gap. So visibility from Vanessa, sharing and collaboration from Nadia, and taking these kind of concepts, big concept. What will be the other concept that we need to introduce into the formula?
I didn't hear the last word from.
What will be the other best practice or concept that we need to keep on doing or to start doing better to nourish the leadership of female?
Yeah, there's a couple best practices that we can do to nourish females, you know. And the first one is to call them out, identify them. At SAP, we call them catalyst, and then make sure that we have the right program, sponsorship, career development, and managing of what they need to do. And the other thing that, and I have come full circle on this in my career, it's the concept of having women join women's network. Early in my career, I felt, why do I need to join a women's only network? What is the point? It should just be a network of Industries 4.0, of supply chain. And I could not have been more wrong. There is a lot of help in being a women's network. There's a lot of trust, transparency, and sharing of information that you get out of these networks. The one we have in North America on Women in Supply Chain was senior leaders sharing, you know, career setbacks, how they didn't pay enough attention to branding, right? How they didn't have the right sponsorship, which is different than having a mentor, right? Those learnings shared in a trusted environment, right, with transparency. Folks are always amazed at how much senior leaders will share. So I think that is very important, to get connected with the right women who can help you, guide you, understand what you're going through is of huge value. And I said, I have come full circle on this. And quite frankly, you know, the point we're at right now, I thought early in my career, by the time I had a daughter in the workforce, we would have come a lot further along. And the truth of the matter is we were getting better, and we were getting women into senior leadership. And then COVID hit, and unfortunately the statistics shows us we're going backwards, right? And I think, first of all, the recognition, the paying attention to that we noticed we're losing women again. And what we react to it is, first of all, part of best practices, to make sure you're monitoring it, listening, and then responding to what you need to do is very important. And somebody said it earlier. Oh, it was you, Anna. The concept of giving back, okay? I have had so many women leaders, and I'm one of those personally. In fact, my daughter is tired of hearing it. It's my time to give back, right? I had a lot of help from all around, from men, from women, you know, but now it's my turn at this point in my career where I need to give back, and I need to help people get into the field, mentor them through their career, and be available. So I think that's another thing is to make sure from your executives that you are encouraging them to make sure they're mentoring, sponsoring, and guiding young talent, because that's really what it's all about. And I also think it's important to share, you know, good and bad. And the final thing that is extremely important for those organizations that can do so is the concept of coaches, executive coaches, internal or external, that are formal coaches whose responsibility is to help guide, can be extremely helpful, especially if you're in a large global organization where navigation can be a little bit difficult. Those are kind of my top best practices and concepts for making sure we're doing a best in class job at this important initiative.
Those were quite interesting, and I'm a firm believer of giving back at a certain point, because no matter if it was a male or a female that led us into our current paths, it's also a responsibility of us to nourish the leadership of male or women. So Juan, you have seen some changes in the Latin American world, and I agree with you. I have been used to be the only women in the table, and nowadays the number are somehow is increasing. Obviously, the pandemic didn't help, but what are your view or the best practice that we can do for the Latin American region?
Yeah, so for the last 5 years, we have been developing a supply chain council in the region where we gather our customers and have a general meeting once a year. And the first time that we had that council 5 years ago, there were no women at all. And at that time, I didn't even realize that. But with the time and the different councils we have been having during the last years, that percentage increased a lot. And the last one that we had last year, at least 30% were women. And for this council, we were inviting the upper management level of the companies, and it was nice to see that women started to participate on those positions. And I don't know if there is a best practice to share our recipe, but I believe, and at least I try to do that on my team, that diversity brings a lot of new ideas and helps the team to perform better. So I think that we should take the diversity principle as a good suggestion to implement in our teams, and try to collaborate with the team to bring those ideas up to life and execute them.
Awesome. Diversity also is a very good way to increase and nourish, and obviously to disrupt with innovation, because different heads will disrupt the current status. So before going to the questions of the audience, I received a couple from questions from LinkedIn. So do we have questions from the live audience there?
Yes, Anna, we have one question here, and it's for Darcy. You mentioned that when COVID hit, all the work done went backwards. Can you give us some examples of these, as well as advices on how can we get back on track?
I'm not sure about all the work went backward. When COVID hit, from a business perspective, we got very busy because companies were trying to figure out how to, first of all, quickly react in short term to what was going on regarding integrated business planning, the fluctuations in demand, the inventory, the issues they were having with logistics, right? So very quickly, we put programs in to help them in the short term. Why, of course, we have to work with them more strategically because disruption is now the new normal. So I don't know if that was the aspect of the question, or you want further clarification as to what went backwards. Oh, the women's situation went backwards. That was okay. Yeah, what was happening is, thank you. I'm sorry, I did a disconnect with that. What was happening is we were on a nice trajectory, and the statistics were going up, especially for women in leadership. And what McKinsey does every year is they do a study on women in the workplace. This was a North America study, but I'm going to guess the same statistics from what I heard on this panel were true in Latin America. And what we found out during the pandemic, because of the pressures put on women, and it was particularly true of women of color and diversity women, were hit even harder because a lot of those more candidates tend to be single parents, right? And they got hit more with the burden and the responsibility and had to select out or take a lesser role because of it. So that was what was seen in the numbers, and it was particularly true of the higher, more senior level positions. So now we have to take a look at is why is that so? What programs can we put into place? Can we be more flexible? Can we whatever? Because we cannot lose all that work we've done to get women into that position. That was what we did. So that was the visibility and recognition that we see that's happening will enable us to respond and put the right programs in.
Thank you, Darcy. And if you want, Anna, you can go ahead with the questions that you have while we collect other here.
Perfect. So this one is for Vanessa. Okay, so Vanessa, what advice would you give women considering a career in Industry 4.0? Any recommendations to other companies as well, or partners out there who are trying to bring more women into their teams?
My advice would be creativity. Apply, it was the advice that was given to me when I was climbing the ladder in the field of technology. I was mentored by another female who told me you have to adopt a no barriers mentality. You have to realize that in this world, the barriers that you put on yourself are self-imposed, and that you need to be creative in applying yourself to roles and know how to parallel experiences and know how to talk yourself up and know how to build your own brand and advocate for yourself. And that comes from believing. You have to truly, truly believe that you're capable of this and leaning in and taking the chance. I would say be a little brave about it and be daring. You have nothing to lose. And that's what I would tell my younger self who's coming out of college to do that. And to companies, and I love some of the stuff that SAP is doing and that we're doing. Darcy mentioned the Leadership Council for Supply Chain. I'm a part of that. My boss is a woman and she's a part of that. And she's encouraged me to mentor other women that are in supply chain, that are at our customers and at our partners. And I now do that. And a lot of it has to do with, letting them come to me and ask me any question and learn from my experience and telling them places where I've stumbled and fallen along the way and how I've learned to pick myself up. How to identify allies is very important. Other men and women in your career who can help you along the way and who have been through something like that you can be vulnerable with and learn from. And I would say to other companies, be creative in how you recruit. Be very creative. A lot of the world tomorrow and 4 years out is kind of uncharted for a lot of people, especially as more automation comes to play with all of this. So, we have robots that are cobots that work with people. I don't think anyone conceived that 10 years ago. So with recruiters and companies, when they're looking to the future, I would say soft skills become more important than anything, because those are things you don't learn in textbooks. And so you have to be creative in how you go about putting together a job description.
Definitely. We need to be creative, we need to be disruptive. And Juan, any advice that you want to also adopt to the question on how we can recruit better?
Yeah, I would like to add a comment on Vanessa. I like the word courage. I think that women need to embrace courage, and also related to what Darcy mentioned, they should apply to positions where most of the men believe that they have the competencies, but they don't. And maybe as a woman, you have better competencies, and you should believe on yourself and just apply. And also related to my suggestions on people who would like to perform in the Industry 4.0 is to enable themselves on the technology that nowadays is being implemented in those areas, because I think that the thing that will be at the top is the technology, and not the processes that were run as in the past. So I believe that anyone who is enabled in automation or in the protocols that are used in factories will be above the other candidates.
That's also true. We need to keep learning in order to move forward. So, Azul, do we have any additional questions from the audience?
Let me ask them here. ¿Hay alguna pregunta que quisiera hacer el público?
Pena,
No.
yeah?
I think
Okay.
we can continue on your side, Anna.
Okay, so as a matter of fact, I don't have any additional questions. We want to share with you guys how the whole continent is moving forward, how is the status going, working with us, and I invite you guys to be brave, be courageous, disruptive, be creative, and obviously embrace the future for you and for the next generation. Okay? So with that, we are wrapping up this exercise.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
For
Thank
inviting
you
us.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye-bye. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much to Anna, who moderated this panel, as well as all the SAP team that support us today with this very interesting discussion on how to have more women in the industry, how to make have best practices for women in the industry as well. And especially, it's very important, as you said, we have to build the networks of trust that can help us with our developments. So with that, thank you so much, Darcy, Juan, Vanessa, Nadia, for all the insights, and we hope to see you in our next edition, but hopefully this time physically here in León, Guanajuato. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you very
Gracias.
much.
Great weekend. Bye-bye.
Gracias.